Hi, this is Derek, and as you know, if you're watching this video close to the time that I'm posting it, we're approaching a new year. And normally that's kind of like something that people use as a psychological trigger for them to push and be motivated to make changes in their lives, right? And while I'm a big fan of actually making changes whenever you're inspired to, whether it's March or July or September, it doesn't matter. At the same time, that whole idea of making changes at the beginning of a new year is a big deal for a lot of people. And so what I thought I'd do today is kind of put together and share with you what I call 7 mindsets. And these are 7 simple strategies that you can use that will make the next 365 days and beyond, if you use them beyond that, hopefully you will, okay? But it will make the next 365 days more fun, more productive, and it will help you become a better person than you are today. Okay, so you'll be able to look back after those 365 days at the end of next year and say, wow, what I did was incredible. And hopefully these will contribute. Now, there are other strategies and ideas, obviously, that you can use, but these are 7 that I picked out that I thought were very important. So I'd like to share those with you. And I don't normally ask people that come and watch these videos to maybe take action from a standpoint of writing things down, but I'm going to ask you to write these things down. And it's real simple. There's only 7 of them, so get your notepad out and your pen and just write these down. And once you're done writing them down, put them on your desk or wherever you can see them so you're reminded of them on a regular basis. And you'll see the basis for me asking you this soon as we get into the 7 strategies that I'm going to share with you. Okay, so write these things down and review them on a regular basis. That's all I ask. Now, let's go ahead and get started. And I want to start out by talking about principle number 1, or strategy number 1. And that is, you have got to get things out of your head. Okay, you've got to quit thinking that you can keep your plans, your goals, any lists of things that you have to do, errands, whatever it may be. You've got to get those things out of your head and down on paper. You've got to write them down. Because what happens is, when you have all these things in your mind that are swirling around in your brain, like your goals or your lists of things that you want to do, or managing projects, and you're doing it all in your head, you're using up processing power. And this is processing power that could actually be used for thinking, just coming up with creative solutions and creative ideas and enjoying yourself more. You know, how easy is it for you to enjoy maybe going on vacation or a nice dinner out or something like that, when in the back of your mind you're playing through, okay, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do that tomorrow, I've got to do this tomorrow. So you wouldn't have to worry about those things if you wrote it down on paper. You've got to get it out of your head to quit sucking that processing power out of your mind on things that could be easily managed and tracked on paper. So if you have goals, write them down. And you should have goals. If you have lists of things or projects, write them down. You can either use a tab or you can use a digital solution. I personally use a mind map, but if you prefer using a notepad, do that, of course. But just get these things out of your head and quit trying to manage them inside your head and using up valuable mind power and processing power. Okay? Not only that, but when you write things down, when you commit them to paper, they become a lot more real to you. And not only do they become more real to you, but they become clearer to you. So you can see how to manage them and how to make them work better. So write things down. Lists of things you need to do, your goals, plans, anything like that, get it out of your head. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 is to eliminate your biggest constraint. And what I mean by that, I'm actually going to draw a picture here. And this is probably kind of cliche. You've probably seen something like this before. I know you have. But let's say you have a chain. Okay? And that's a pretty chain, isn't it? So you have this chain. And this is elements. Think of this as elements of who that make up who you are. So you might have different things, and these chain links could be anything really. So what is your biggest constraint? Well, your biggest constraint would be something that represents the one thing in your life that you could change that would have the largest impact on the results that you get. Okay? So you might be really good at talking to people. That's a chain link. You might be really good at managing projects. That's a chain link. But let's say that you have a bad habit, or let's say that you are pretty poor at managing an aspect of your life or your business, whatever it may be. Maybe it's your insurance, your health, whatever. Or maybe it's a fear that you have. That is your weakest link. That is your biggest constraint. Okay? So what happens is, if you have this constraint, let's say it's a bad habit, that is going to be your weakest link in the chain of what makes up who you are. And so if this bad habit creates a weakness in the whole entire chain, that chain is only as strong as its weakest link, right? And you've probably heard that saying, because that's a great analogy for explaining why this works. So if you don't take care of this habit, or better yet, if you do take care of this habit, find out what it is, or whether or not it's something, how you manage your money, how you manage your business, a fear that you have, like I said, of speaking, whatever it may be. Everyone's constraint is different, or biggest constraint. So you have to identify what is your biggest constraint, and then work and focus on eliminating that, whatever it may be. And put everything else to the side until you can eliminate that one constraint, because that is holding you back more than anything. That is the one thing that if you changed, if you eliminated that constraint, your entire chain would become immensely stronger, and you'd be able to pull and do a whole lot more. But as long as that link is as long as you have this one link that's causing the problems, this constraint of yours, then the whole chain is going to be weak. So focus on identifying what it is in your life that could be considered your biggest constraint, your biggest weakness, and eliminate it or make it stronger so that the whole entire chain becomes stronger. Alright, so that's number 2. Number 3, actually I'll just use this paper. Number 3 is something I've talked about before, but it's a principle that has really changed my life, and I think it's a really powerful principle, and that is something that I call consuming less and expressing more. And we live in a world, excuse me, we live in a world where corporations, people, we are convinced that the way to live life is by consuming more information, products, all kinds of stuff. So we're just flooding our lives with this consumption of stuff, whether it's digital, whether it's books, whether it's movies, whatever it may be. We're consuming constantly. And you think about it, when you get into this mode of consumption, let's say this is you in the center here, and you're constantly consuming. What's going to happen? Well, if you don't turn it off, you're going to get, you're going to become overwhelmed. You're going to have all this stuff coming into your life. You're not going to know how to manage it. You're not going to know what to do with it. And you're just kind of throwing more things into your brain, into your life, that's causing you to be confused about how to take action or what to do or how to spend your time. So how do you change that? Well, I think the best way to change that, let me get rid of this, is to flip the switch. And instead of consuming all the time, start thinking about ways that you can express. Okay? And expressing is an outward motion. So whenever you express something, you're pushing it out of you, right? And so you want to be kind of more in this mode a lot more often. And this is different than what most people are in, because normally they're into the consumption mode. So when you express, what are you doing? You can express creativity, you can express who you are, you can express your thoughts, you can express things you like, you can express your love, you can express joy, all kinds of things of expressing. You can express your knowledge through video or whatever, a blog or whatever it may be, writing a book, creating a product. That is expressing who you are. So that's flipping the switch. That's different than constant consumption, because you get into this mode of just constantly consuming, you have no time left to express yourself. And this is where happiness really happens, is when you're expressing yourself. So instead of constantly consuming, find ways of how you can express yourself more and consume less. Okay? So let's move on to the next point, which is number 4, and that is to give things time to bear fruit. And what I mean by this is you don't want to plant ideas and projects in your life and give them just a week or so to bear fruit, and then once you don't see them bearing fruit, move on to something else. Because think of a plant. You know, you have the ground, you plant a seed, and what happens? Well, with the seed under the ground, you have to water it constantly. You have to nurture it. You have to give it vitamins and minerals, however that either it happens naturally or you help it along. But do you ever see, like after planting the seed a week later, maybe, or 2 weeks later, having a tree that's full of fruit that you can eat and that's bearing the fruits of your labor? No, unless there's a tree out there that I'm not aware of. But what people tend to do is they plant the seed, and if they don't see fruit, if they're not getting some kind of massive result in a week or 2 weeks or even a month, what do? They either dig it up and see what's wrong with it, in which point they kill it, and like, why am I not seeing any fruitage from this seed? I planted it a week ago. Or they forget about it completely and go plant a seed somewhere else, give it a week or 2 or a month, and once they don't see any fruitage there, they move on to something else, and so they have all these dead seeds that they've never seen any fruit from because they haven't given it time to grow. So when you plant a seed, you've got to nurture it, you have to give it what it needs to grow, you have to take care of it, and you have to be patient. And that's the only way that you're going to eventually be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Alright, so give things time to bear fruit. So whenever you start a project or you have an idea in the coming year, give it time and be patient for it to bear fruit. So the next point is to act faster to do good things. Now what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is when you have the impulse to do something good and that hits you, you want to act on it right away. That means that if you have the impulse to give something to someone, no matter where you are, whether in your grocery store, whether you're eating with somebody, or if you want to have an impulse to call someone, and that's good, you want to call them and say, hey, how's it going? Or you have an impulse to create a video or post something on your blog, then take action on it as soon as you can. Okay? Take action on those good impulses. Because one thing is that it's always good to get into that mode. It's almost like you're training your intuition to pay attention to these impulses that you have, these good ones, so that you can take action on them. But not only that, but what happens is if you don't take action on it right away, the desire to do it, to do this good thing, fades away pretty quickly, doesn't it? And so it's always best that when you have this impulse to do something good for someone, whether it's your wife, your spouse, your friends, or even a stranger, if you see that they need help and you have this impulse to do it, then help them out, or do something nice, or say something good, and do it right away, as soon as you possibly can, and don't let it rest. You know, don't put it away and say, well, I'll just do it later. Do it now. All right? Number 6 is push through the fear of doing what you should. And what I mean by this is we are in our lives always put into these situations where we get into this situation where we look at somebody and we think, well, you know what, I should introduce myself, or I should say something nice, or I should create a video for my blog, or I should, you know, pay for this meal that I'm having with my friends just because it's the right thing to do, or it would be a fun thing to do. But what happens is you start feeling this knot in your stomach and you're like, I don't know if I should, right? And that's that fear. You don't know if you should act on that good impulse. So what I'm suggesting is you need to, whenever you have these desires and you know that you should do this thing, and it's a good thing, then you need to identify that you're feeling some kind of fear about it. And then push through that and just go ahead and do it. You know, go ahead and pay for that meal. Go ahead and create that video. Go ahead and say that nice thing or introduce yourself. And you'll find out that by doing this, by pushing through these little barriers of fear and taking action like this, that it's going to make you a lot more confident in the actions that you have to take in any part of your life. Okay? So push through the fear of doing what you know you should. If you're put in a situation, push through the fear. Alright? Now the last point is to do something that I call start a daily success routine. And Aristotle, which you've probably heard about, he's a famous man in history, and he once said that we are what we repeatedly do. And that means that what you are doing on a daily basis affects who you become and what direction your life is going. So you need to take control of that in a positive way. If you're wanting to reach certain goals or become a certain type of person with certain personality traits, or you want certain outcomes in your life, it's going to be what you do on a daily basis that's going to make that possible. It's not reading books and going to seminars and doing all these things and underlining things and highlighting this and sitting back and wondering, boy, when is my life going to change? You know, that's just taking in knowledge. And that's important, but that's not what's going to make the change in your life. What's going to make the change in your life is when you start taking small, tiny actions on the things that you're learning. And of course, I've got a program for this that I put up. I created a system called the Day Launcher System. And it's a 7-step system for creating a daily success routine. And I'm not here to get into that too much. I just want to mention it because it is effective in helping you to make repeated daily improvements in your life, which is going to lead and compound into creating dramatic changes in your life. So whether you not use the Day Launcher System or you have your own daily success routine, you have to take the things that you want to do in life, the values that you want to live by, the principles that you want to live your life and your business, run your life and business by, the goals that you want to have, and all these things, and you have to do something, even small, on a daily basis, repeated daily basis. That is the only way that you're going to get long-term results. This idea of just taking in knowledge and maybe doing a big push every once, next month I'm really going to push it. Next month I'm really going to make a change. That doesn't ever work, does it? I mean, it's never worked in my life, and I never heard of anybody it working in anybody's life. What makes the difference is what Aristotle said, is we become what we repeatedly do. So if you repeatedly take small actions and do different things related to your goals, your values, principles, things like that, and have a daily success routine that gives you a system that you can follow for making changes in your life, that is what's going to make the difference. Okay, so that's all 7 together. Get things out of your head. Eliminate your biggest constraint. Consume less. Express more. Give things time to bear fruit. Act faster to do good things. Push through the fear of doing what you should, and start a daily success routine. Those 7 things, if you put them to use and put them into action, don't just look at them, don't just listen to me and sit back and expect something to change. If you put these things into action, it will make for the best 365 days of any year that you've ever had. Okay? Because these things will make a difference. So that's it for today. I hope you find this information valuable, and thank you for watching.